All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Hey, good morning, Tanya.
Good morning. Mike.
All right. Looks like we had a couple people on live, and then I guess we're waiting on a few more. People did fill out the form, so I'm seeing they got some work done. Keisha looks like she's really busy. Um, but I know it's kind of a new day in real estate. I'm sure everybody's. I guess the Feds dropped the rate again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't do anything for the interest rate, right? The rates went up. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's what I heard. They didn't
So I
because
know.
of inflation.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody was trying to convince everyone that, when the Fed dropped the rate, that the interest rates automatically fall in line. I know Robert said he took all of his commercials down after that. So I was like, that's pretty interesting because I've been telling people, I've even made posts. I said, look, it's about the trend. It's not about 1 week. So you have to basically look at the trend. Is it trending downward? Is it trending upward? And right now it's not doing either. We'll get one down, one up, one down, one up. That means it's just flatlined. So if you think about what's going on in the market right now, it really has very little to do with, I guess, what the normal predictors are. Now, I've been saying this for years, and people ask me, like, how do I define the cycle? So I guess I never really cleared that up because I always say it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, but I don't really get into what are those factors that create what I call the 4 to 7 year or 5 to 8 year cycle. And I'm just going to come out and say it because I guess everybody's been trying to figure out how do I come up with these numbers. And I say it's always based on the presidential election. Every single time. It has never failed, at least not from my predictions. When all that stuff happened in 2008, guess what? Why is 2008 happen to be a presidential year? I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, you got to think about it because that's actually the cycle. Now, why do I say 4 to 7 or 5 to 8 years? Because depending on whether the incumbent president gets reelected or not, they're going to continue with those policies. And so if you see an election year like this one's bigger than all the other ones because there's so much of a diverse and unusual circumstances. I mean, the more we think about what's going on, nothing like this has ever happened where we have the vice president actually replacing the president and no one really knows what's going to happen. What we saw in the last 4 years was depressing compared to what everybody predicted would happen. And so everybody's like, well, we knew it was going to be a shoe-in if Biden stayed on the ticket. But now that they've replaced it with Harris, it's like, what's going on now? Okay, well, no matter how you look at it, it's 4 years. It doesn't matter which way you look, it's 4 years. And my prediction is it's going to get better regardless. It doesn't matter. At the end of this election, it's going to get better. It just depends on how much better. And in my opinion, the Republicans always look at businesses and give businesses breaks. Trump's a little different. He is a businessman, so he gives even bigger breaks because he knows what he would like. But it will get better. I just think that depending on which candidate gets in, it'll get either a little better or a whole lot better. And I know what most business people are thinking. Without making it a preference on my candidate, I'm just going to leave it at that. But that's where the 4 years, 5 years comes from. And then the 8 year cycle, depending on if the incumbent wins. Typically, if that happens and we have a good run for 8 years, or I should say a solid run for 8 years, again, it's either going to be good or better. But it's always in those years when there's the election and the two candidates have diverse platforms and everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen. So that's always been my prediction. So far, it's never been wrong. Not that I'm an expert in economics or anything, but that's just the trend that I've noticed over the years. So that's where the cycles come from. Now, when you think about the cycle, what are we looking at as far as the cycle is concerned? Well, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? And that's really what ends up happening. So you start noticing, all right, things have slowed down drastically. That's going to favor guess who? The buyer. Now, unfortunately for agents, that doesn't help us a lot when there's a whole lot of inventory because it just sits longer. But if you are working with buyers, they have a lot more options. They can ask for things they couldn't ask for when it's a seller's market. When we're down, they typically say between 4 and 6 is a neutral market. I'm going to say that's probably incorrect based on what we've been used to for the last 4 years, because when you're used to less than 1 month of inventory, 3 months seems like a lot. So a buyer's market probably feels more like 3 to 5 months versus 4 to 6. And now when properties sit on the market for 120 days, it's like, oh, that's a really long time. But in the days, it used to be 180 days wasn't long. My mom's house used to sit on the market for 9 months. And I think I told everybody about her cash cow story. That was the one house she wished never sold. But 9 months later, it did. And she was like, oh, goodness, where am I going to get these buyer leads from now that my cash cow is sold? But that's just one way to look at it. And with all that being said, obviously, we have a few people that are that did some work this week. I don't see Lakeisha on here. Anna put in some numbers. Sherry has one, but she said she's not feeling well, so let her go there. Looks like Brianna put numbers in, but I don't see her on the platform for the stage. Looks like we got a couple in the live. And then Lakeisha, she looks like she had a pretty big week, but she's probably out on appointments. So that's the good thing about seeing these numbers here. I like usually to get people to come up and let us know where they got them from, because it's always big news. But rather than do that, since there are no numbers to go over, no one to go over their numbers, I guess me and Tanya are going to have a conversation today, and everybody gets to kind of listen in and see where we're going. I do have some big news, but I'll get into that after I let Tanya do some talking. So what's been going on with you?
Well, you can't leave me hanging like that. I was excited
no.
about the big news now.
Oh, well, I'll definitely chime everybody in here in a second.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page as you as far as the election goes. I think it will get better after that, because right now I'm seeing a lot of buyers just sitting around waiting, and no matter who gets elected, they're going to come out and start putting contracts in. So that's essentially what will happen either way. And so I agree it'll get better, but depending on who gets in the office is going to determine how much better it gets.
And it really is that simple. And that's why I like to explain to people, like, yeah, the cycle is whether it's a buyer or seller market, but the seasons, they dictate what is going to happen regardless. So it could be a buyer's market come next listing season. I always say listing season because it's, in my opinion, like, typically April or March is when taxes really get going. But March to like Labor Day or just before Labor Day, we start seeing a lot of action in as far as listings. And of course, when there's more listings, there's more buyers because they're trying to, jockey for position. And it's always about the school year, especially, school district, because a lot of people are trying to jockey for positions to get into the better schools. And once that happens, then it kind of levels out during the summer, and then we see what we see. But that's listing. And then toward the end of the year, it's always going to be the buyer or the builders. The builders love to market a whole bunch more properties, and specials and incentives. So that's kind of what I've seen.
Yeah, the December to remember.
Yeah, that's my favorite story about that. I always talk about that because I don't know. It seems like everybody doesn't remember the December to remember with Lexus, but that was their theme. And I think it was back in the 80s, probably when there was I think that's when the last real recession happened. And they were talking about how they would invite people to bring their cars, and they were like, we don't know what to do because no one's coming in. They're like, all right, we'll let you test drive instead of test driving for, a few minutes on the road. They were like, how about we let them test drive for a week? So they were test driving for a week, and the people were coming back with their Lexus and saying, you know what, just keep our trade-in. We don't want it. So I think the builders are like, hey, if we can use all these incentives, get people out here to see the homes. And I always tell people, yeah, you want to walk people through new homes because they'll get the new car smell. That's what I call it, December to remember, because now you can use that. Now I'm going to talk about my plan for our first orientation. That's kind of a surprise that I'm going to talk about, Tanya, but it's really going to be basically the game plan on exactly what I'm doing. I expect everyone who stays in the market, because now the old saying is, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So whoever's left after this election and the start of the year, you're going to be more than prepared, probably more than you've ever been prepared, because I'm going to do something I've never done before. Well, I used to do this back when I was managing my team with EXP and a couple of other ones, but I'm going to teach people how to convert. I have determined, and I've seen multiple coaches talking about this now. One guy is really, really good with converting people. And I listened to someone who finally repeated my philosophy verbatim, and I'm like, I knew it. And that's what he specializes in, converting people from doing leads all the way to closings. And I'm going to show people that game plan here in a second. But anything you want to add? Looks like we got a few people that filled out the form, so I'm going to bring them up.
No, I think you're spot on. The people that are going to be here in January are going to be solid. Like they're not going to be just doing one transaction a year because those people aren't going to survive anymore.
Yep. There you go. And that's just, it's my belief, but I honestly feel like, yes, we're in a weeding out process and we're going to see who the tough ones are. And the tough ones are going to be the ones that last.
Yeah, looking forward to it. People are still complaining about dealing with agents, which I've experienced too, on the other end of their transaction who don't know anything and are still like, just not well trained, I guess is the better way of putting it. And so either they're going to get out of the industry or hopefully find some better training to stick with it.
There you go. Yeah, and I'm literally going to hit that hard here, because I mean it affects everything. It affects even our recruiting efforts for bringing people to LPT or other places. I picked up a couple of new agents just randomly because they come to my training events and they're like, you know what, I remember coming to your event and I just want something different. So that's what's actually happening. It's that time of year. Usually this time of year I pick up 4 or 5, 6 people, but I picked up like 2. It may get more by the end of the year. We'll see. But it's because some people are just leaving. Matter of fact, one person was asked by the broker to leave the team because they didn't pay their board dues. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I forgot you have to be part of the board. So if they're not making any money and they keep getting asked to pay money and they're brand new agents, they're probably like, where are all these fees coming from? Like, I don't even know how to make any money and I'm having to pay all these darn fees. So I get it, but that's what we're faced with right now. But I love what I think what Shay was the one that said this in one of our meetings. He basically said, it doesn't matter how much we complain as veterans. It does not matter. The people who are joining now don't know about what it used to be like. So in a year, that's who we're competing with. They're going to be like, this is always how it's been for us. So if you complain about how it used to be, we're over here just working because we don't know any better. So we got to get used to doing the things that we weren't used to doing in the past and make that part of our norm.
Exactly. I was on a mastermind call with the LPT team leads on Tuesday, and he said that, well, one of the team leads said that the new agents were better off than the experienced ones because they were fine with the new transition, but the new experienced ones were like, well, what do I say or what do I do? And
Isn't that
they've
weird?
had 10, 15 years of experience.
The weirdest thing, I'm like, in 2013, I was doing commercial real estate, and I remember everybody, they were still talking about getting listings because that's always a big deal, but they're like, no, commercial leasing, you make a lot of money. So I started looking at the numbers and I'm like, oh, I did it one time without a present. Actually, I brought my presentation, and the guy that was my partner, he was a listing agent. He says, don't worry about it, I'll do it this time. And I had my book over there and I slid it over to him and he slid it back to me. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm crazy, but I did all this as a mortgage broker, getting myself ready and always having a presentation so people felt like they weren't being scammed. And sure enough, he just winged it, didn't ask them to sign any paperwork. And I'm like, oh my God, I got a buyer up agreement here and no signature. That's the one lesson I will never have to learn again. It was a $10,000 deal. $10,000 just thrown away because he told me, I don't really work that much with buyers. I'm like, then why would you offer to, do the presentation? Like that's all I've ever worked with. Like I'm a mortgage professional. All I work with is buyers. He's like, well, it's a lease. It's the same concept. They need to spend X amount of dollars a month to get into a space. I'm totally fine. He's like, well, I thought I was going to help you out. I was like, well, why didn't you just offer to get him to sign the agreement? He's like, yeah, it's kind of different. I'm like, it's not any different than doing the listing side. He's like, oh, I've just never looked at it that way. And I'm like, wow. So of course I didn't want to go back later and be like, hey guys, come sign my listing, my buyer agreement or listing or leasing agreement. But I never missed another one. And then I went like, God, I can't remember. It was well over 20, 30, and I was at 92%. And it was just the same language over and over. I'd say little things that I'm going to teach everybody in the orientation. And that's literally what's going to happen. It's going to be, how did I convert? What language do I use? What language did you use? What are some of the introductions, or I say initial contacts, whether you're using text messages or your conversation? But we're going to also role play. I'm going to have everybody in the room match up with someone, and you're going to learn how to have these conversations. Because what I've discovered is it's the confidence. People can tell me whatever they want. I'm sorry, there is nothing else. It's not, and that's why I think if you niche, you just get better at this business because you get used to saying and talking about the same thing over and over again. And so, of course, you're going to be more confident. And I know, Tanya, you're living proof of that. The more you got into the idea, I'm going to be a listing agent, I'm going to work with investors. I'm sure you're way more confident now than you were with the first investor. And when you talk to the next one, you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it. I'm not guessing. I know how this process works. And the more confident you are, the easier it is for them to say yes. And I think when I talk to most agents, they're like, well, number one, I didn't know what we were supposed to say when I first started because no one ever taught me. And then when I started winging it, I'm looking at this type of client, this type of client, this type of client. And then by the time they get in front of 5 or 6 different clients, they had to say something different with every one of them. And I'm like, yeah, of course it's going to be hard to be confident with that. So I'm going to show people how I do it in a way in which I don't really care who I'm in front of. It never changes. You just have to have a little different initial contact. That's pretty much it. Because if they come from FSBOs, your introductory conversation has to be different than if it's an expired versus a new build that you click. There's a buyer lead from the internet versus one from your sphere of influence. Each one of those initial contact conversations is different, but everything else from that point forward should not. Your elevator speech should not change. Your overcoming objections should not change. How you close with your presentation should not change. And if you can manage to do those things, I'm going to teach you pretty much in that order where you have your initial contacts down. That's almost the only part of the script you need to memorize. When people start trying to memorize 19 lines in the script, you're man, you got to be a professional actor to do that. So it's got to be a point where, you know, there's only one part you have to memorize and the rest is by what I call active listening. So it's a discovery phase with your clients. You have to listen. If you listen to the ISA video or audio tapes that I collected over the years, they all do one thing really, really well, and they don't do anything else. And it's active listening. They'll ask like, how many bedrooms, how many baths, what's the price point? Then they'll ask like anything in addition to that. And they may like, oh, we're looking for acreage with this, this, and this, or we want, you know, a fence in the front yard. Doesn't have to be a fence in the front yard, but and you literally hear them repeat back exactly like a orders at McDonald's. That's if I had that's the best example I can give you. Like they repeat it back, and if they don't say exactly what you said, then they go back and say, okay, so let me repeat it again. That's literally how the ISAs operate. And if you're not a good order taker, that's why a lot of times you lose clients. They're like, well, I just repeated this 3 times, and you're still asking me, you know, how many bedrooms. So of course they're like, you're not listening to me. And because when you pay too much attention to scripts, you're too busy worried about your next line to actively listen to your clients. And I started teaching. I used to call these triggers because I'm like, I only think about one thing in a conversation. People are like, you look so natural. I'm like, I don't even have that many. Y'all, everybody on this call probably had way more conversations, unless you're brand new, than I've ever had with clients. But I'm just very confident when I get in front of them because I have one thing I'm listening for, and that's it. I don't care about the rest. I know what I'm going to say. And the trigger for my appointments is pretty simple. Anybody who's watched my videos has seen it, but it's, are weekends or weekdays better for you? That's the only thing in my head the whole time I'm having the conversation. When is a good time to insert that? And as I'm, hey, so when do you guys typically shop? Well, usually on Saturday, especially on open houses. I'm like, oh, do you normally come in on Saturdays? Yeah. Okay. So what day's better for you, Saturday or Sunday? Well, yeah, Saturdays will be good. Morning or afternoon? Afternoon, 1 or 3 o'clock. It's the same thing over and over again. And they're like, well, how can we do 2? Well, of course you can do 2. And then I have my little spiel. All right, so now that we know you're doing it at 2 o'clock, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you an invite from Google calendar. My calendar invite is going to remind me an hour ahead of time, 2 hours ahead of time, and 24 hours ahead of time. And because you're going to accept that invite, which confirms our appointment, it's also going to remind you 24 hours, 2 hours, and 1 hour ahead of time. And at the 1 hour mark, I'm also going to reach out and I'm going to call you because I'm going to let you know I'm on my way. And if you don't let me know you're on your way, then I'm going to reschedule that appointment for someone else because obviously something came up. And that's not a problem. I just don't want to waste your time or mine. And since I have other people that are ready to go at the time, I hope you're okay with that. They're like, yeah, definitely. But they know you're serious now. And when you have that dialogue with them, they don't miss appointments. And when they do, someone asks me, how long do I wait for them? I'm like, wait for who? It's like, I don't go. Like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour ahead of time. If they're not responding to me, I just gave myself back 3 hours of my day. I'll go watch a movie. I'm okay with that. Whatever it takes.
Yep, totally.
All right, but I'll get more into this afterwards. But it looks like we got a few of our we actually got 2. Looks like Brianna and Lakeisha are here. So I'll bring up Brianna first. Looks like she has a couple of numbers on here, and then we'll bring up Lakeisha. All right, hey, good morning, Bree. You're got to unmute.
Sorry about that, y'all.
Oh, no worries.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So let me see. Okay, so this past week I was able to get a referral from a past member from my gym. This person in particular lives out of town. They own a home, and basically I had to try to connect them with a seller's agent out in the city that they're in because I've never been or heard of this city. It's called Copares Cove. Uh,
That's a
right by Mission. Yeah, next to Killeen.
green. Yeah.
I was able to locate an LPT agent sometime last week, and then from there we need to get a purchase done out here. So I'm kind of waiting to see what the agent discovers, but they had a listing appointment this, I think, on Monday. We're on Thursday now. Yeah, so on Monday or Tuesday, what was it? Yeah, it was Monday. And basically, I need to wait for a date that they can come here to San Antonio. The other one, the other lead I had was um, from an open house block party that I did for the builder at Starlight a few weeks back. This is a Spanish speaking client and a bank statement only. So I kind of went on a little spree trying to find a lender specifically for that. And then also I had to recreate my presentations and realized that I should have had that done a long time ago, honestly, because I do get Spanish speaking clients. But I typically get away with showing them my English version and then I just kind of translate. But with these people in particular, they really seemed like they were gonna ditch me if I didn't do it specifically in Spanish. So I had to recreate my buyer presentation for them and got through it with them, but it did take me about 3 hours, maybe 4, just sitting down with them. Yeah, so it was an eye opener. I do speak Spanish and it was actually my first language, but I don't speak it every day.
And I understand real estate terms are so different.
So different. Oh my God. And it's so hard. But it was definitely, like I said, an eye opener, and it kind of made me realize that it's an untapped market that I really haven't focused on. And so it was pretty fun. It was an interesting thing, but with them, I'm trying to find a builder. They're not in a rush. They own a home outright and do have cash, but they have a lot of cash. But trying to get them with the lender, they're being a little bit, how do you say, secretive still with me.
So I would, even if I would probably go to new build first. You already taken them?
Yeah, so I took them I met them at the first builder being Starlight, and then showed them 3 homes there. But then on my second appointment, which was the buyer presentation, I met them at another builder being First America.
Okay.
But again, I was trying to get them to sign my buyer agreement at that point after 3 hours of explanation. And I still feel like I'm getting a little pushback from them. Like they didn't want to sign the documents. I told them that's fine. This is like, I printed everything out because I kind of figured they didn't want to do e-signatures. After the presentation, I asked them and they agreed. So I already had it printed out and I gave it to them. I was like, look, you guys can take this to a different person to translate, but the documents are in English. So I think that was kind of where we're at. Like I was still trying to find copies of, or find a Spanish version of those TREC documents and TAR documents, but there really isn't. Yeah, they don't exist. So if there's any insight or any input that you guys have that I can,
I'll let Lakeisha handle that one for you, because Lakeisha tells me she's pretty much 100% on her signatures. So, but you did get a referral fee for the listing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll get two sides of the deal there, which is great. So, you know, as much as people are saying the market is slowing down, there's people still selling homes, and you guys are proof of that. So the key is just keep yourself busy, and guess what? Keep planting these seeds, because I'm telling you, it's not, even though, as Robert talks about, the inventory is really low compared to what it's been over the years. We may be down around 4 million, but that's still 4 million homes. And guess what? There's going to be a lot of agents leaving, a lot. And just like you're having these issues, think about it. Like Keisha's clapping. Okay, good. But think about it. Just like you're having tough time doing this, think about the agents who don't even have the thick skin that are going through this. They're leaving. They're just going to take off. I can't do this. And there's probably going to be a few seasoned agents who are like, this is just too hard. And they prided themselves on, I hate to say it, but they prided themselves on being buyer's agents. And they're not able to do the sales part. See, for listing agents, that's why it's weird to me. I would just go help people do listings at the first brokerage I was with, or the second one, and he was like, do you mind just going on appointments with him, because you don't seem, you know, to have an issue with your confidence. I was like, well, let me watch you first. So I went with him. I'm like, I hate your presentation. So I modified it, and I went with them, and he's like, you're 100% like the first. Well, I missed the first one. After that, I didn't miss one, like 8 in a row but I was always going with some of his members. They're like, do you mind going with them and helping them out? And I would show him the presentation I was doing. He's like, actually, that's a pretty good idea. But I don't have that issue with confidence. And I think, again, that's where it changes. But if you get the right verbiage like you're asking for, if Keisha shares with you what works for her and if it triggers something, that's exactly what the mastermind is for. So I want definitely have Keisha come up and share that with everybody. But also, I'm also going to talk about what we're going to be doing at the orientations every Friday, so that you'll get this practice over and over and over again. You don't have to come every Friday, but when you are there, you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again, which is exactly what you're talking about. How to do your presentation, how to do your conversion skills. I want people to get to the point where they're so comfortable that they're not afraid to talk to anybody. And that's basically the whole point of it. So, all right. Good job, Bree.
Thank you.
All right. Let's bring Lakeisha up. Looks like she had a really strong week. And you can also share what's your tactics for getting people to sign the buyer rep agreements, because you don't even let them look at any houses until they sign, right?
No, because so I remember when my first year in real estate, I was nervous about I'm sorry, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was very nervous about the contracts, and the reason why is because I don't know, instantly I felt like people don't want to sign anything because they feel like, and people literally, they do not read. So they do not read. So I believe that's part of the problem. They're afraid that the verbiage in there is not going to make enough sense for them to sign, right?
Right.
So fast forward to today, to Julia's point about the confidence part, I'm not going to play with this, because this is my career. And it's necessary. It's either you want me to be your realtor or you don't, because it doesn't matter. You're going to sign it with someone else. So my approach is to just let you know up front, here's what's happening. This is what it's about. I think the most important part is they want to know, do you have their backs? Do you have their back? What are you going to offer them? And to me, I kind of like, I don't push it or anything. I just say it. In order for me to represent you, I must have this done, and that done. And this is what's going to happen when this is done, that's done, and this is done. I just had one that was procrastinating. I'm like, okay, well, you can procrastinate. I'm not taking you out to see a house. Don't call me and ask me why you're not seeing anything. You have to sign my paperwork, And so they eventually signed it, because I told them, I'm not taking you anywhere until it's signed.
Absolutely. And here's the thing that I think, and Lakeisha, you've heard me talk about this a lot, but as much as it may sound weird, you're going to have to throw all the realtors under the bus. Shay did this the other day, and I just laughed. I think I heard a couple other people, Matt talked about it, some other folks, but it's true. At this point, it only makes sense, because when you run into these clients, they're not going to know any better. So you're going to have to literally say, hey, other realtors may not do this, but they should be. If they're not doing this, they're wrong. And at that point, they're like, oh, shoot. So if they're not getting you to sign the documentation, they're not doing their fiduciary responsibility, because our job is to look out for your interest above our own. And it's a legal requirement. And if they're like, oh, so it's for your best interest. And then if you're any good at explaining the IBS, I would take some time to, practice that thing until you understand it, because that's the whole reason they designed it. for you to be able to do exactly what Lakeisha's saying. Show them that you're looking out for their best interest and you got their backs. That was what that form was signed for. But as you said, not only do consumers not read, realtors don't read the IBS, so they even know what's in it. If you know what's in the IBS, you'll be like, oh my God, I should have explained this a long time ago. But I always point out one line in there. I don't even bother to get into the other stuff. All I point in is the one line that says, I must protect your interest above my own interest. And they're like, what does that mean? Well, that means it doesn't matter how much I make off the deal or what happens for me. My job is to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to walk you through a process from A to Z. That process is everything you see in this IBS, whether I'm representing you on the buyer side or the seller side. My job is to protect you. They may tell you that, we're not attorneys, but we represent you the same way. I can't share stuff with the other side. They can't share stuff with me that's going to infringe upon you getting the best deal possible. So whenever I take you out, and that's when you'll hear me do my little elevator speech. But again, we're going to go over all this every orientation. I'm just like, we don't tell you no, we tell you how. And when you work with us, whether it's credit, whether it's this, whether it's this, whether it's this, whether it's this, and when you work with me and when you sign with me, I'm going to do this for you. When you sign with me, I'm going to do that for you. When you sign with me, I'm going to do the other for you. And they're like, okay, well, when do I sign? But the other half of that is if they don't sign. I mean, I've gotten to the point now when I do my commercial leasing presentations, they literally stop me and go, can we get you to sign something so we don't lose you? Okay. Now, at that point, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, because I make the process sound so tough. And I think that's where we're going to get to when I talk about my presentation. A lot of people are like, well, I want to try to make it simple for them. Don't. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of my FSBO strategy, and Bessie's tried it and it works, but I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to start doing FSBO seminars, and I'm literally going to give them my entire game plan, everything from listings to leads from A to Z. By the time they finish looking at all the stuff that's in listings to leads, the 100-point marketing plan, even if they tried it, they're going to give it back to me. I tried 2 of those things you showed me. There's no way in the world I'm going to be able to market better than you. You're an expert at that, right? Absolutely. Because a person can represent themselves in court, but they typically don't do a very good job. So giving you guys a sneak peek of what's going to happen in the next few weeks, because by the end of this year, if you're coming to the orientation, next listing season, you're going to be absolute beast out there getting signatures. And I think that level of confidence will change everything in your business. Anything you want to add, Lakeisha?
I'm going to actually start highlighting it in yellow now that we're talking about it. That little part right there. I work in your best interest. I'm going to highlight on all my contracts going forward.
Yep. That's exactly what I did. So, yep.
I'm going to highlight it so that it's bold. You see it,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. It is that level of confidence, just letting them know, do you want me to be your agent?
Plain and simple. Yep. Yep. All right. And you got some really good numbers up here. You did the assignment with YouTube?
I'm still working on that assignment with YouTube.
Yep.
I need to press that button. That's crazy. But I'm still working on that assignment. I'm trying to make sure all my SEO and all that stuff is, rocking and rolling. And it's doing good on its own. And I have not put up my my post yet. I haven't done that yet.
Yep.
I have so many videos on pause.
Right. And you see how detailed that process is, right?
It's very, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people ask, like, when Victoria put together the video after I showed her all the stuff, literally 2 months later, she only did 15 videos, but it was the quality of the videos, and she search engine optimized her channel and search engine optimized each video. And as long as you meet that criteria, you'll be surprised. Her videos were showing up faster than Perry Holmes' videos on that page. So when you punch,
how do you see someone else's optimization?
You need vidIQ, and again, it's in the next couple of weeks. If you go through the YouTube training, you'll see it. vidIQ.
I have the vidIQ.
Okay, and the other one's called TubeBuddy. There's a couple other ones, but I use vidIQ, and it kind of tells you exactly what the rankings are, what their tags are. You can copy their tags and move them in there, but it's all in that video. Once you go through all the training, you'll see it. Okay.
So this week, last week, I had a event that was tailored to. I hosted an event tailored to Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So the theme was Spooktacular Family Event. I hosted it at Davidson Homes, and that brought the kids out because the kids was able. We were offering free photos.
Oh, okay.
For the children, but you had to sign in for it so that we can email it all to you at one time. Nice. And I I met a few people actually networking and all of that. It's crazy. It turned into a family networking event.
Nice.
So people actually came out, neighbors actually came out. We gave candy. I had my popcorn machine up. We had like pastries and stuff like that. And it was really nice. So I ended up getting 8 families actually.
Wow.
So I'm going to follow back up with them again. I have 2 that are in the medical center who are looking to purchase here in the spring because that's when their lease is up. So I had all of my booklets out and all that good stuff. So it was a nice event. So that's how I got those 8 leads.
Very nice.
Awesome.
And
That was outside of your neighborhood?
Yes. And so I want to continue that up. And so I'm going to join my HOA finally. I met the president who's also a realtor.
there you go.
He's
That's
a
probably why they
realtor.
joined. It's probably why they joined.
Right. I'm like, how do I compete with that? But it doesn't matter.
No, you're good. No,
Yeah.
just have events. Just do stuff they're not doing. That's it.
Exactly. So, yeah. So that's my goal. My goal is to be an expert at events, planning events, and so that families can come out. I feel more comfortable just being around a group of people. I mean, I don't like to publicly speak, as Julian knows, but I'm getting better.
Yep. Just got to keep doing what you fear, right? That's
Yep.
the key, you know.
So,
and trust me, you're talking to somebody who is a true introvert. I hated getting in front of people speaking, but now everybody's like, you're so good at it. Yeah, I got well over 10,000 hours on the podium. My first few hours, I was just worried everybody was going to tell me I sucked. But, you know, being an introvert, you tend to wait till everything's almost perfect before you do it.
And that's
then
me.
You get better. So, yeah, but it'll happen. No, I've seen you up there. You might be a little nervous, but only I can tell, or maybe you can tell. No one else really can most of the time. There's only a few times you get so nervous, you're like, I'm stuck. But if you got a presentation in front of you, that's why I always use a presentation. I can probably wing it at this point in my career, but I know other people need to see the visuals as much as I do, if not more. So
exactly.
That's why I use visuals.
So yeah, and that's my mastery plan, is to devote at least 2 hours to presenting to myself.
Outstanding.
You know, per day, so that I'm ready to tackle it. January come, I want to be on it. Boom.
There you go.
You got it.
See, and this is, I mean, I love hearing this, because when you talk about professionals in any career, yeah, baseball season's about to end, basketball season's about to end, but the true professionals, the rock stars, are the ones that have an off-season plan. And you're taking this seriously. You're like, hey, when this next time rolls around, I'm going to be better than I was last time. And that's the key of a true professional. People who are wondering who makes it in this industry, that's who does. Once you get to your goal, you can do what they call a maintenance plan, just like, you know, working out. Hey, I'll reach my goal, I'm going to maintain. The maintenance plan may seem simple, but look at all the work you had to do to get to that point. And if you're not willing to do that, you're never going to get there. And so a lot of your agents are like, hey, I do 50 deals a year. I'm happy with that. Well, yeah, I would be too. But if you're only doing 15 and your goal is to get to 50, well, then of course you need to be improving yourself. And I love what I'm hearing. He's like, I'm not at my goal yet. I'm going to keep pushing until I get there. And when I get there, then I can maintain. You can never rest. You know, that's the part where I'm going to just stop. Like there is no, I wish it was just a lead flow system that worked without you having to do anything. I mean, you could do that if you build a team. That's probably the only other time. Once you have a team, then you can do that. But yeah, everything up to that point, it's, as the old saying goes, if it is to be, it's up to me. And
yes,
that's what you got to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fantastic. Is there anything you want to add, Tanya?
No, I love the spooktacular event. That was super smart. And, you know, just the fact that you're continuing to improve yourself is on point. Like, congratulations, keep it up. And hopefully you're a motivation to everybody else here.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you can keep me motivated. I have to get out there sometimes and meet up with us. I'm like, what you doing now? So I like to see stuff like that. Even if we have one person show up, right? It don't matter. As long as you get a chance to perform and get better at your craft, that's what this is all about. Because one person turns into 2, then 4, then 8, and on and on and on. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great job, Lakeisha. Appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
All right. So we got like 4 minutes left. And like I said, I'm going to unveil a few things. If you kind of overheard, not overheard, but Lakeisha and I were talking about the YouTube stuff. But for week 22 to 24, 24, I think. It's all YouTube. 21 to 24. So if you want to set up your YouTube channel, that's 21. That was last week's assignment. This week's assignment is home tour recording. So if you're not sure how to record the home tours, the entire script and everything in there, I'll even click on it so you can see like literally the language I use. First, you want to meet the sales counselor, download the teleprompter app, and start recording. Now, what does a recording look like? Okay, these are the terms that you use. You want to update the template below to match the community and the floor plan that you're recording. Second, copy, update the template, the hook, the plug, the vocal intro. So that's all in here. What's the hook look like? First off, it's are you curious about finding a new construction home near popular La Cantera era? This is actually a new community a couple of years back. It's like, all right, and it's like, so if you're interested in view homes or any other, because you're basically, this is like a commercial. So your first few comments are to get them hooked, but also to weed out people. Now, the way I designed the script so people understand what you're reading here is if you ever do paid YouTube ads, the very first thing you want to do is weed people out, because if they stay on your video longer than 30 seconds, you pay for it. So if you ask a question in the beginning, are you curious about finding new construction homes near the new La Cantera area in San Antonio, Texas? If the person's answer is no, I'm not, they're going to click skip and move on. And that's what you want. You don't want people watching your videos if you're paying for it. But guess what? This same exact template works for organic. So if you practice doing organic, and you start closing deals and you're like, well, I'd rather get my leads a lot faster than waiting 2 months for this thing to pick up and go. Well, you also have the exact template you need for doing paid ads. And I don't even start talking about paid ads until the very end. There's one portion of this. I don't even know if I added the paid in here, but guys, if you guys are interested in doing paid ads, let me know and I'll walk you through it. But Google paid ads are way better than everything else out there. They're just also way more expensive. So you just have to be okay with the idea of spending money. But if you close a couple of deals, you probably will be. But that's the assignment. If you go through and you read everything, you'll see step by step what the language looks like. You just copy the script, and I guess I need to take all the instructional stuff out of here and make like just the script. So like some of this stuff, I group this together, and just put like the script part. So you just copy that, put it in the teleprompter. So I'll make it a little bit easier, but I wanted to explain everything in here, what you're looking at and why it's where it is. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody, but that's the assignment for next week. I also want to get into a little bit about the Friday's agenda going forward. So if you look here, it's like what's available through J Prime and LPT. So 1050 every Friday. So I was able to secure space over at my insurance group with James Cardenas. He's like, man, we would love to have someone that can just train people on a regular basis and put it on our calendar. So I worked out a 6-month agreement with him where I'm just going to train every Friday. I got the space from 9:30 to 1:30 every Friday, and then the first Wednesday of every month, or at least one Wednesday every month. But the goal is every time we bring on new people, especially, and right now, everybody on the team, and I'm probably going to invite the Mastermind folks as well, but we're going to come in. A lot of this just has to do with LPT. So some people will have to sit through 15 minutes of, the LPT Connect, using the marketing tab and, where to find Monday motivation. So I'm pretty much just going to go with the LPT Connect because that's where we find everything. Anybody who's new to LPT and doesn't know where to go, this will be the easiest way to find it. Then I'm going to talk about J Prime being part of the team. Okay, what the compensation looks like. And of course, this mastermind. So the KPIs, this should take 15 minutes. Now, the rest of it, which I'm going to go to like 1050, is 35 minutes. It's going to be 3 steps of conversion mastery to convert leads to clients with growing confidence. It's your initial contact, your intro, and your elevator speech. The informational, what I call informal presentation, which is basically how you set the appointment. So you're overcoming objections and setting the appointment. And we're going to talk about that. And then your formal presentation, your unique selling proposition, and your presentation materials. So you got to be able to close. And as you guys heard us talking a little bit earlier, you got to be able to offer them something different. That's when I offer my unique selling proposition. That's why they go, can we just sign with you? Because from their perspective, like no one is doing what you're talking about. We've had multiple people do X, Y, and Z. You're the only one that ever talks about this. But a lot of it just boils down to one thing that I do differently. I don't sell, I educate. I literally, just like I'm training you guys, and that's why I was telling everybody, if you're a team leader, you have to understand the fundamentals of instruction. When I'm in front of people, I'm doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing with you guys. Anyone who's watched me do a presentation, you're like, when you say it, it's hard to imagine it. But once you watch me, you're like, you're doing the same thing with them that you do with. Yes, that's the best way to earn people's confidence. When you start well, let me tell you how good my brokerage is and how well my numbers are and what I've done. They're just like, oh God. Whereas I'm like, no, let me tell you what we're going to do for you. It's the Whiffum concept. What's in it for me? And that's how everybody thinks. And once you understand that, this concept becomes really easy. So from there, you can expect, 2 to 4 times your ROI, 3 times as many qualified appointments. Because once you get to the point where you're confident with this stuff, you're ready to take on all comers. It never bothers me to get in front of someone's like, can you demonstrate? I'll be like, I don't have to be prepared at all. If I got my presentation with me, I bring that thing, I flip it open, and I'm like, let's go. I don't care who it is. Whatever they're saying, I'm so confident. And people have heard me talk about this, and it started happening with the new bills too. But what changed? When you listen to me talk about, and matter of fact, I think I was with Keisha one of the times where I was like, it's new bills, period. Like I truly believe that new builds is almost 80 to 90% of the time the better option for a client. They have to convince me that it's not. And that's how confident you have to be. But guess what? There's no way to be that confident about new builds if you don't 100% understand pre-owned. And that's the key. Like, how do you compare and contrast 2 different things that you don't know equally as well? So someone asked me about new builds. Well, why do you think new builds is better for me? Well, I just asked you a bunch of discovery questions. You have no money down. You don't mind a location a little bit in a rural area. Your credit scores are over 640. This is why I always tell people you got to learn how to pre-qualify. So if you're a buyer agent, this is imperative. You don't want to let the lender do this, because from your client's perspective, that's what every other realtor does. But if you're discovering and pre-qualifying and they go, no other realtors ever asked me that question, always pawn me off on a freaking lender, and then I don't want to talk to the lender because I don't know anything about them. And so I pre-qualify them and I let the lender pre-approve them, because that's really what, as a lender, that's what I do. You know what I used to hear from a lot of lenders, from my team members years ago? Matter of fact, one of the Lennar agents was pissed. She's like, you need to teach your agents how to do a better job of pre-qualifying. We don't want them bringing any more of these, 580 credit score people here. I'm like, well, that's your builder, because there's other builders who can do a 580. So I'm not going to teach them anything different. You need to either learn what to deal with them, or I'll find another Lennar agent. She's like, oh, well, that's up to you. I said, well, thanks. That was my answer. So I found another Lennar agent. But of course, she's like, well, I didn't mean it that way. Well, too late. You don't have to work with someone you don't want to work with in this industry. But the key is understanding that we pre-qualify. And once you ask those discovery questions, I promise you, they're going to look at you like, wow, I didn't even know I could do that. Yeah. And if you can qualify for USDA with your score, if it happens to be truly a 650, your income is what? Oh, it's under $110,000 and you're the only person in the household. There's only 1 to 4. Okay, great. All right. Well, if your income's under $110,000, your credit score is over 640, which it is, what you're telling me. I think we can go look at new build homes that qualify for USDA. It just means you have to be a little bit more flexible on your location. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I sure am. All right. So what I'm going to do, and here I have a great relationship with all the builders all over the place. That's why I know about all this inventory. Now, if for some reason we go through the timeline and it looks like this isn't going to work out for you because maybe you need more acreage, you really don't like certain type of homes, you need this, or this, you like the old school stuff. The reason why I start with new builds is because they have time to build and gives us time to work on building whatever scenario we need for you. And at that point, as long as we're 30 to 45 days out prior to you finding your pre-owned home, it only takes us a couple of weeks. And at that point, it usually takes me within 2 weeks, 2 weekends, no more than 3. And I can typically find, based on what we do in this discovery meeting, I can typically find you a home and it's going to be your perfect 10. Most of my clients say it's their 11. And they're like, oh, shoot, well, what do we need to do? Because the whole time I'm saying, when you sign with me, here's what I'm doing for you. When you, well, how do we sign? When do we sign? But once you get used to using that language, that's literally what happens. One of the tricks I use in the leasing department, the leasing, which we can do, the other reason I like to say new builds, and we're going to talk about all this, is because guess where you can use the terms like off-market and pre-market and reduced priced? Well, that's usually FSBOs and expireds and someone who likes to go and knock on doors. But guess where else you can find pre-owned, pre-construction, off-market, pre-market, and reduced price homes? New builds. They're also You can use that same language when you describe your new builds, just like you could for FSBOs and everything else. So if you need to be able to use that language, hey, I can only show you off-market properties when you sign with me. I can only show you pre-construction when you sign with me. I have a list that comes from builders, and they don't want me bringing people out unless they're serious. The way I separate the curious from the serious is by getting signatures. Oh, well, how do we sign with you? That's like, I want to see the off-market stuff. What does that mean? That means you get to see it before everybody else. You want to know the number one trick to getting people to want to work with you is give them this VIP feeling. You get to see it first. You're in the special members club. You get to see it before everybody else. And then all of a sudden, you're their best friend. So that's kind of a preview of what to expect every Friday. And then from 11 to, did I put that in here? Oh, yeah. And then from 11 to 12:45, it's just me going through LPT Explained. And as I mentioned, you guys, listing. So it'll be 30K in 90 days, the roadmap basically in the 4 different parts for limitless listings. And so if you guys are interested in that, every week, it's going to be a 4-part series. But I showed you the blueprint the other time we were on the training last week. But that's what I'm going to be going over. But I'm going to break it down into small pieces because it's going to be very, very detailed information going forward. The people who are in the audience watching will be sitting next to people that are on my team actually doing this. So you'll bring your computers and you'll be working through the roadmap because I truly think you can make 30K in 90 days if you follow it. But it's all about listings to leads and how to use all those platforms and the landing pages. And I'm going to be showing you exactly how to do it. So if you're in the mastermind or if you're part of the team, those landing pages are a life changer. I've seen now people are starting to look at them and go, that's the key to all of it. If you really understand how landing pages work, then you'll follow these marketing tabs to the letter. And you'll start noticing, yeah, in addition to other things that we talk about, but you got to have that foundation. And once you do, you're good to go. So, all right, well, we're at that extra time that I don't like to run over too much, but hopefully that was some good info for everybody. If you like that, and it sounded like some pretty helpful information, share some comments. Let me know if that was good info for you guys. And Tanya, what do you think? Did you like anything I had to say there? Tanya, anything you wanted to add? Oh, sorry, I think you froze and you're muted.
Yeah, I just noticed that I froze too. No, I love this idea. Like, it's great for new agents and even existing ones. So would you want us just to like send people that were interested, or what would that look like?
Oh man, if you're in my downline at all, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, this is productivity for everybody. So every Friday we're doing this. That's why I wanted to, when I put the message out, I sent it out to everybody in my downline because I don't see where there's a downside to having everyone on the team learning this stuff and getting better. Because if they're more confident and they're closing more deals for you, then of course they're helping me with my cap. And then eventually I'll start making money from it. My team members, of course, it's more of a requirement. I want them to be there until they get it down. But other people can randomly show up. They're like, oh, I covered that one last week. Well, there's nothing wrong with learning the same thing for 4 weeks in a row, or correction, every 4 weeks. And then the next month do it again. And then the next month do it again. Because if they're like, well, I'm still not feeling confident. Well, there's your opportunity to practice like baseball players, basketball players, football players. The repetition is what gets you there. And eventually, no matter how bad you are, if you've done this enough, you're going to get good. So I want the orientation to be something that people can see like practice. And that's kind of the goal. And then when they send people to the 11 o'clock version, yeah, that's basically a little bit of recruiting because I'm going to actually do the LPT Explained, which we used to do on Stoneworks. So I'm going to do that. But in addition to that, I'm also going to offer one part of the limitless listings so that they're kind of watching everybody in action and going, holy shit, if we join, we get to be part of this. Yeah. So send people to the orientation if they're agents you already have on your team, and then tell them if they have other agents they want to invite to send them to the 11 o'clock, which I'll talk about the orientation every Friday for people that join. So that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, I think that's great. Until the end of the year, or how long are you doing it for?
Forever. for the next 6 months. And if James says, hey, man, we got such a great turnout, let's sign you for a couple of years, I'm like, we'll see. But yeah, that's my goal, is to really get to the point where I have systems in place. I'm not recreating stuff over and over. the recreating is, it takes a lot of time. It's kind of like research and development. I want systems in place that are working really well. This mastermind has been fantastic. I mean, I literally stopped recruiting because the questions everybody comes up with, it takes so much time and energy to figure out what to put into the 52 weeks. But now, as you see, we're almost halfway there. Week 26 is coming up and we're halfway through the year and it's still like so much information. So once I get this where I want it, then it's a lot easier to say, all right, going forward, all I'm teaching is the first 90 days. The rest of it's on your own. I'll change the mastermind up quite a bit because I'm not going to go 52 weeks with another group. But my team members will always have access to me. And I think the best way to do that sometimes is live. So, we'll have the Zoom calls on Thursday. They'll only last 45 minutes. Probably going to get a lot. I'm going to get, some of the stuff I'm not going to do anymore. But for the most part, I want people to be able to hear other people's testimonials and stuff like that. So, Lakeisha, you said you had a question. Did you want to come to the stage to ask it, or?
Very quick question. I know we need to end. Do anybody know the phone number to the Google? Because my Google, all of a sudden, I did one little thing and it said you have to verify. So now my Google business page is not running. And it's crazy. It's like you need to be verified. So I tried to get verified, re-verified, did what they told me to do, not able to upload the video that they want me to be in front of my business, which is my home. And I tried to find phone numbers. I know this is off topic. I tried to find the phone number to call these people. I tried to email. I tried everything and nothing.
Okay.
I'm like, should I just do a new page? So I guess that's my question is, should I just create a new page, but then I'm going to lose everything?
I mean, I would go to YouTube first, see if there's a process on a how-to video before I do that. But I mean, worst case scenario, I guess. But no, I mean, there's got to be a workaround. If not, then I would start with Google and then maybe go to one of those groups on Facebook that's what they talk about, Google specialization or something. Any other thoughts, Tanya?
Yeah, that actually happened to me because I changed the address and I had to try verifying it like 3 or 4 times and it took like 4 weeks, but you can't get a hold of anybody or anything, but it did end up going through eventually.
Right. When you try to upload the video, it'll take you back to the same page asking you the same question. That's what I'm going through. Yeah.
Exactly. So you just have to do it like 4 times.
For 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I actually did talk to somebody. I'll look through my emails. I think I might have emailed somebody and then they told me to do it again, but it wasn't helpful because there's like a troubleshoot option on there, but
it's not helpful at all. Draining. No. So yeah. Well, thank you.
Patience and persistence on that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, that's what we're here for. Some of these issues to get knocked out. Any other issues or questions like that? Take them to the community and we'll do the best we can to research and get an answer back to you. But appreciate everybody coming out this week. And again, it'll be 2 weeks, 2 Fridays from now. On the 8th of November, we'll start the live. And I want everybody to show up that is available to show up, at least for the 10 to 11 version. You don't have to stay for the rest because you've already seen most of that. And then, of course, if you want to walk through the limitless listings, you're going to have to stay for the 11 to 1 portion anyway. So if you plan 3 hours out of your Friday, and then take off for lunch or whatever, start your weekend, that'd be a great way to get started on the 8th of November. But until next week, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you then.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Have a good week. Bye.